Song of Solomon chapter 8. We're going to read just 3 verses tonight. Song of Solomon chapter 8. And if you're there, we'll say amen. Amen. All right. Verse 10. I am a wall, and my breasts like towers. Then was I in his eyes as one that found favor. Solomon had a vineyard at Baal-Hamon. He let out of the vineyard unto the keepers. Every one for the fruit thereof was to bring 1,000 pieces of silver. My vineyard, which is mine, is before me. Thou, O Solomon, must have 1,000, and those that kept the fruit thereof 200. Last week, our study, we studied that the Shulamite's brothers questioned whether she had kept herself pure from the many unwanted and unsolicited advances of Solomon. They would reward her for her faithfulness or be greatly disappointed for her infidelity. In Song of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 8, they asked, "What shall we do for our sister in the day when she is spoken for?" They asked because they wanted to know what to do for her when she actually was demanded for marriage. What would they do for her? As we already learned, what they would do for her was dependent on what she had done and how she had behaved in her absence from her brother and in the presence of King Solomon. They said in verse 9, "If she be a wall, we will build upon her a palace of silver, and if she be a door, we would enclose her with boards of cedar." Remember, we learned the words idiom, that this is an idiom. And they said, basically, this idiom was, they were saying, is if she kept herself pure and was like a wall to keep out all intruders, they would reward her greatly and continue to honor and protect her. They would build her, rebuild her, establish her, and cause her to continue forward. However, she did not keep herself pure and was like a door open to anyone and everyone. They would shut her up, show hostility to her, like she was an adversary, and treat her as an enemy. See, but up until this point, they did not know how she lived in her absence. However, they were about to find out just what went on and how she lived. So I want to give you a few points tonight, and again, I probably won't be long tonight because I'm going to get right to the point. How's that? Amen? I was long this morning, and tonight I'll give you a little bit of a break. Number one, the Shulamite answers her brothers. She answers her brothers the question, which one are you? Are you a door or are you a wall? Were you a door and let everybody in, or were you a wall and kept everybody out? Did you were you impure or were you pure? Verse 10 here is in our text, she answers that question. She said bluntly, "I am a wall, and my breasts like towers. Then was I in his eyes as one that found favor." Even though she answers by using the same idiom her brother used, there is no doubt as to what she meant. She was very blunt. She plainly stated, "I am a wall." She said, "I stood firm against all the enticements of Solomon, and I am not a door, admitting just anyone or anyone, period." These enticements were words and actions that were meant to flatter and try to coax and persuade her to change. Solomon buttered her up, so to speak, and got her try to hook, line, and sinker her in. Hey, baby, how you doing? You're pretty. And she says, not interested. Hey, I'll give you everything you want. Not interested. Hey, don't you know you are my favorite of all the women in my life? Isn't that a lie? Aren't those 3 lies of the devil? See, because I'm thinking Solomon probably said to the first woman, you're my favorite. And then probably said to the second one, you're my favorite. And the third and the 100th and the 200th and the 300th and the 400th and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 900th and even 999th one, hey, you're my favorite. We don't know how long it took for Solomon to get bored with 999 and 1,000, but we don't know how long it took for him to get bored with the 1,000th woman. But you know what? He was working on 1,001. And how long, if she succumbed to him, how long would it take for him to get bored with 1,001? See, by stating, she said, I didn't fall to his advances. I wasn't persuaded to change who I was. I wasn't a sellout. See, here by stating that her bosoms were like towers, she was contradicting to the words of her brothers when they said that her breasts, verse 8, when they said she hath no breasts. She was contradicting their words and in verse 8, and they believe because they believed that she was not marriage material. The truth is, she had more than proven her maturity. You know, oftentimes, graduating high school doesn't give you the automatic passage to go to college. Because maybe you're not mature enough to go to college. Amen? And then, oftentimes we let the ages of our life, and I'll get that in a minute, say, well, I'm this age and I can do this. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. See, Solomon lusted after her beauty, but the shepherd's eyes looked favorably on her. There is a difference between lust and love. Lust is a very short term. Love is forever. The shepherd truly loved the Shulamite girl. Though we don't know her name, we know that she typifies or pictures the Christian. And Solomon, she was just another pretty face. She found, in the shepherd's eye, he found completeness, tranquility, contentment, and peace in her. And what a great statement. The shepherd boy, that's all he was looking upon. And all she was looking upon was Jesus, was her shepherd boy. And shepherd boy represents Jesus Christ. Number 2, the Shulamite addresses Solomon. In our text, she turns around and addresses Solomon in verses 11 and 12 and says, Solomon had a vineyard at Baal-Hamon. He let out the vineyard unto the keepers, every one for the fruit thereof was to bring 1,000 pieces of silver. My vineyard, which is mine, is before me. Thou, O Solomon, must have 1,000, and those that kept the fruit thereof 200. See, although Solomon was absent here, the Shulamite puts him into his place in her brother's eyes. Shulamite girl was not there, but King Solomon was not there, but she just said, this is who Solomon is to her brothers, and says, I want no part of it. Her brothers had promised to reward her if she kept herself pure. So now she demands her reward and gives the reasons for reason why she should get her reward, because she kept herself pure. More than likely, this is another idiom describing Solomon's harem. When it was when it was all said and done, he ended up with 1,000 women. See, in a nutshell, the Shulamite said, Solomon can keep his 1,000 women. I don't care to be one of those 1,000. I am only belong to the shepherd, and I'm the only one in his eyes. And that's good enough for me. Apparently, if you say the 1,000 fruits or the thousands in the vineyard, and then it says later on that verse, it says, and thou and those that kept the fruit thereof were 200. Apparently, there were 200 who watched over and cared for these women. All the Shulamite needed was to be her one and only to the shepherd boy. Could you imagine 200 people at your beck and call? I need this. People come run. And she didn't want that. She wanted the one boy. She wanted her shepherd boy. That's it. Number 3, and I'm almost done. Here's this strong application for each and every one of us to learn. This is the most important right now. Strong application for each and every one of us will learn. First of all, the integrity, fidelity, and maturity of the Shulamite was brought into question by her skeptical brothers. We know that this girl was very young and beautiful, but for whatever reason, this is a dangerous combination when it goes unmixed with wisdom. The only thing you have in your life is integrity, fidelity, and maturity. Don't sell it out. Don't give it away just like that. And purity. You don't sell it out just like that. See, today, when the maturity level of a young person is brought into question, the defenses go up for the most people. And the rhetoric rolls out of the tongue of the person. They say, I'm old enough. Or, all my friends get to, and they are younger than me. Why can't I do it? Or, I'm 16 and old enough to drive, don't you know? I'm 18 and old enough to vote. Or I like this one. I'm 19 and old enough to drink. So why aren't you letting me? Isn't that sad? Hopefully, we that are parents are old enough to know better and to teach our children that age is just a number. You know, when you get older, some of you residents, you're saying, I've asked, well, how old are you? Well, you know what? Age is just a number. Or you're only as old as you feel. Maturity, your age, 16, 17, 18, 45. I know some 70-year-olds that aren't mature. I know some 60 and 50 and 40-year-olds that are not mature. I know some 30-year-olds and 20-year-olds that aren't mature. And I know some younger teenagers that are mature beyond their years. Now, I'm not saying they should vote and they should go drink. And by the way, you shouldn't go drink. But age, it's who you are. The Shulamite girl maybe was probably a young teenager. And yet she showed great maturity. The Shulamite backed her statement not with mere words and not with rhetoric, but with her actions. See, one might say to those rhetorics before, I know you're old enough, but are you mature enough? I know your friends get to do it, but why would you desire to be like your younger friends, younger unsaved friends? I know you're only 16, you're old enough to drive, but are you responsible enough to drive safely? I know you're 18 and old enough to vote in this election tomorrow, but are you wise enough to cast the right vote and to make the right choices? I know you're 19 and old enough to drink, but are you man enough or woman enough and even Christian enough to say, no, I don't want it? I don't want it. Stay away. Maturity and character doesn't come with just age. Building of the character has no basis of how old you are. It's how much you desire to have character. Amen? Well, I got lots of character. Well, what sins do you hold on to? Let me ask you a question. How pure are you? Well, then we'll decide whether. Then you can decide whether you're mature enough. Amen. Age has, as I said, age has little or nothing to do with the Shulamite statements here. Though she was young and beautiful, she stood her ground and said to Solomon she was not for sale at any price. Do you have a for sale sign on your body? Do you have a for sale sign in your mind? Do you have a for sale sign on your eyes and on your tongue and on your feet? In other words, will you do anything for anything? If somebody said to you, I will give you $1 million if you take a sip of this alcohol, would you do it? You say, it's only a sip, it won't hurt. You're compromising. You're compromising. You say, but I could use the $1 million for a lot of things. That's dirty money. That's dirty money. And it's not useful. You say, hey preacher, why don't we put a set of drums up here and have some have a concert before church service on a Sunday night? We can get more people in. Well, no, I'm not going to do that. Why? Because it's compromising. I'm not going to be a sellout. Preacher, why don't we just go to the New King James? We'll get more people. No. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said, you shouldn't be a stickler on the version of the Bible. I looked at him, I said, I'm not going to sell out. I'm not going to sell out. I said, and I said it in my head. I didn't say it to them, and I probably should have, and that's maybe a sellout, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Why should we get away from the old black book? I'm not going to. The old black book was good enough for Jesus. It's good enough for me. Amen? Is it good enough for you? Amen. All right. Some things in life are just too important to auction off cheaply to an unthankful world. Mr. Hummel, you're too important. Tim, you're too important. Ramona, you're too important. Sarah, you're too important. You know what? Everybody here, you're too important. Don't auction yourself off. Every time you drink that alcohol, smoke the cigarette, do the illicit drug, watch the bad pornography or click on the bad pornography or even watch a bad show, you're selling yourself to the devil and the wiles of the devil. You need to what? Stop it. And turn to what? God. Again, the world's, their philosophy is stop it. We need to say, hey, let's fill that time with something else. God. Ramona, you said you want to get off the cigarettes. Well, guess what? We'll fill that void with God. Put God back in. Take the poison out and put God back in. Amen? Amen, Ramona? Amen. We'll help you. The world is unthankful and wants to destroy you. It really does. Dr. Jack Hyles wrote For Sale in his book, Blue Denim and Lace. I want you to listen to the thoughts of this chapter. It goes as this. It goes, one's degree of chapter may be determined by what he would do wrong. For so many are prone to sell out so soon. Politicians, we know that. Preachers, and others may find the temptation to sell out to be a great one. Some sell for much and some for little. The tendency to be for sale starts in childhood. If the child is not taught that wrong is punished, and if he gets no spankings, wrong is not made distasteful for him. He often gets his own desires by doing wrong. If he cries long enough, he gets the candy, and oftentimes even rewarded for throwing a temper tantrum. He does not have to mind his parents. To say no to mama is considered cute. Then he will say no to the teacher, no to the Sunday school worker, no to the law, and no to God. He then dies and goes to hell because his parents thought it was cute for him to say no. This tendency is to sell out continues in youth, and is found in the youth who does right only if it turns out right. Right needs to be vindicated in such a life. Every action is determined by its reward or results. According to this opinion, nothing is right or wrong in itself, only in how it turns out. Hence, anything can be right if it turns out right, particularly gaining a new boyfriend, good grades, etc. And the main end rather than principles and character. How sad. Such people stand only until the price is big enough. They are not taught to live by principles. Their convictions last only until the selling price reaches their desires. This tendency increases in adulthood. From such young people, we have our police scandals, our crooked politicians, our compromising preachers, our loafers, our lawbreakers, and our homewreckers or homebreakers. Early in childhood, our youth should be taught the need for conviction, and that right is its own reward and needs no vindication. They should be taught never to sell out for convenience or for fair price, but rather to place over their souls, not for sale. Are you for sale? I hope not. Not for sale. Satan, you ain't, no matter what you offer me, I'm not doing it. Not going there, Satan. You cannot entice me anything. I'm going to say no. Again, politicians change their stand to get more votes. Politicians go and they speak at places where they ought not to be. They claim one thing and do another. Why? To get a vote. Are you that way? How many people think that that's dirty-handed and dishonest and they shouldn't do that? Raise your hand. Let me ask you a question. Why do Christians do it? Let me ask you a question. Sometimes, why do you do it? I'm thinking of a preacher in town who sold his eyes and his heart to the devil for pornography. It not only ruined his eyes watching pornography, not only ruined his marriage, but it ruined his church, it ruined his life, and it ruined the people that followed him. Some of you may know who I'm talking about. My dear friends, are you a sellout? Or do you have not for sale?